Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
Hey folks, John here. I want to introduce you to our guest speaker today, and her name is Beth Braden. Full disclosure, we were set to talk about a couple of fascinating true crime cases, but as we were discussing some things off the air, we realized that we were having a good time and we wanted to keep going with that conversation. And that conversation would typically fall more in line with our other show called Bless Their Hearts, which airs a new episode each and every Thursday. So we thought we would put it here as a teaser for you to check out Bless Their Hearts, where we talk a little crime, but a little shenanigans as well. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy our conversation with Beth Braden, who is an independent researcher, does a lot of work in the true crime field, but is also stinking hilarious. I would get an up desk or whatever you call it, but there's no chance I'm going to stand more than an hour a day.
Yeah.
I got this crazy motion board with it so I can stand up with it, but then I'm standing on the board and I can wobble around and do whatever I want while I'm working like a real psychopath. It's really nice.
I went to a chiropractor a couple of months ago having some really bad neck pain. And after my second appointment, he put me on this, and I've seen it on TikTok lately. It's a board that you stand on and it just shakes the crap out of you.
Is that what you have?
No, it's self-propelled, so I have to shake the crap out of me while standing on the board.
No, this shakes the crap. And then she has me reading this, all the benefits of this, and it's accelerated weight loss, all these different things that just sounds like this thing is a miracle. And at the end of it, I'm like, be honest with me. Is this a prank? Are you just seeing if we all do this without giving you any, questions? And they were like, no, it's legit. And then I read about it.
Oh, okay. I thought that was going to end differently.
No. I think
okay, but did it work? Did it help your neck pain to get jiggled all over the place?
The chiropractor helped my neck pain. I think this is just so they can have some fun in the office by watching us stand on this thing. And
I feel like that would create back and knees problems for old people like you.
As weird as it sounds, it said that this was an equivalent to an hour run. I'm like, no, it's not. It's it can't logically explain this to me. But then 7 minutes into the 10-minute session, I'm like, my muscles are tired and I'm sweating. So there is a little bit of benefit to it, I think, but I don't think it's a miracle like they explain.
Also, I missed the part where you said it was your chiropractor and I thought it was a TikTok you watched.
I said both of those things.
Oh, okay.
You bought it in the TikTok shop?
Yeah.
They do sell them in the TikTok shop.
Of course they do.
My newest TikTok thing they want me to buy is that neck massager, and I'm thinking about it, and it knows it because I get it every other.
I think we bought one.
Okay, well maybe I can just borrow yours.
Yeah, we can try it out.
I never had a TikTok until we started working on the Micah case, but I did the TikTok just to see what everybody else was saying, basically.
Yeah.
And I can see why it's so addictive.
It's a huge
It's
time
my
suck.
favorite thing.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff is hilarious.
Yeah. And I need to stay there. Sometimes I'll accidentally click on an alien video or a murder and then my feed's all that. I want the funny.
Yeah. Give me funny dogs and cows. And that's it. That's all I need.
We're wasting your time. I'm really sorry.
No, you are completely fine. Here's the thing. I can sit and talk to anybody all day about anything. So I am completely chill. I just have to leave at 1:45 because otherwise school frowns on you forgetting your kids.
I've done it. So it's get a nice little phone. Did you forget your kids? Is that what's happening? Also, your girl, John, he talks to everybody. Yeah, it wears me out to talk to people.
It makes my husband so uncomfortable that so much of my job is calling people and asking invasive questions.
Yes. So I almost screamed at somebody yesterday for calling me, and legitimately it should have been a text.
I said I was sorry.
The answer, it was just, he was like, okay, thanks. Just want to say thanks. Bye. But
You came in hot today.
I am
You are
just,
just in.
I'm ready to
You're
fight
feeling
him.
spicy.
I'm ready to fight him.
We need to just have a group prayer time.
need-
When my
Surprise.
grandma died, my parents in their just trying to get everything done after she had passed had the wrong date chiseled into her tombstone.
Oh gosh, that sucks.
So like when I was like, Mom, Dad, Nan definitely died the 28th, not the 30th.
What's the
They were like, okay. So they had it remade,
Please hope.
but now
Was it February? I'm sorry if it was.
that would have been hilarious.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't be laughing.
No, it was a riot because I busted out laughing at the sheer absurdity. But now Nana's wrong tombstone is on display as one of the options at the tombstone place. And
Wow.
they had a new one made to put on her actual grave.
Did your parents have to buy it twice since it was their mistake?
I don't remember.
Golly.
Like the stone company may have cut them a deal on the second one.
If that happens to me and my mom, I'm just going to say, Mom, this is something else we can laugh about.
I'm getting out a pocket knife and I'm just carving the right date under it.
I'm thinking, could I do some quickcrete in there and then re-chisel it? Is what I'm thinking.
I mean, it would have worked. It probably would have worked, but no, like I just absolutely lost my marbles laughing when I realized what had happened.
Was she someone who would have found that funny?
Oh yeah,
So
she
I
would
would have
have.
just went with it.
Oh, she would have been laughing so hard. This is the same old lady that once tore a handful of recipes out of a magazine in a doctor's office and brought them to me.
That's wonderful.
I love old people so much.
Like I still have them in one of my cookbooks. Like she was just so proud of herself. I got all these cheesecake recipes.
And I love cheesecake.
My wife's grandmother was like the most quintessential country woman. Like I freaking loved this woman. I can't tell you her real name because I don't know it. We've always called her Bo Peep. She died a few years ago.
Amazing.
She had some kind of surgery that went wrong, and they ended up cutting her vocal cords. So she had a trach, even though she never smoked. So it was like an enormous amount of effort for this woman to joke around with me, but she always joked around with me. So I could tell you so many stories, but long story short, about a year after she passed away, I have a dream. And in my dream, my wife and I are going through her house and we're like getting rid of just all kinds of junk. But I find a picture of her from like when she was in her probably late 20s, early 30s. It's black and white. She's like all dolled up. She looks beautiful. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I walk into my wife to show her in the dream. And then the picture winks at me. I woke
Amazing.
up like both terrified and laughing hysterically.
That's incredible.
I have no doubt she visited me that night.
Nana had been flirting with my husband since I brought him home for the first time when I was 18 and he was 19. She started flirting with Chad and continued to flirt with him. Like, and she was doing it just like all in good fun,
Yeah.
but it was hilarious.
It always starts in good fun. You really got lucky.
You gotta watch out for them old ladies. She always called my best friend from high school. He wore shorts year round. Nana called him hot legs.
Yes.
Was your Nana's name Bo Peep? Like,
No, her name was Alice Faye.
I love it.
And she was so ornery. Oh, she was mean. I was laughing earlier this morning because I remembered she went to her grave pissed off at my husband's best friend. Because she said Steve, my husband's best friend, said Steve gave Chad bad advice about the tomato plants, like back in 2018. And she'd been pissed at Steve ever since.
How dare Steve?
Was she from
I know.
Oneida? Did she live in Oneida?
Yeah, she lived in Oneida.
That's awesome. I love
She
Tennessee
hated
women.
Steve.
Man,
I guess we should talk about murder. Although it doesn't sound fun
I mean,
right
how
now.
long have we talked? Like, this could be an episode of Bless Their Hearts.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
My worst fear, other than snakes, is that we're going to talk tea about somebody, just forgetting that we're being recorded and it goes out.
Didn't that happen with one of our neighbors?
Yeah, but I don't know that they listen to it.
Oh.
And in that situation, I don't know that I care. But there are people I do care about that I wouldn't want to. But
I know. I'm sometimes terrified that like my off-color sense of humor is going to accidentally be released on the internet. I'm going to get canceled.
Yeah. I really can't believe we haven't been canceled yet.
We've said some stuff, mostly on accident.
I've said some stuff on live radio that had more than 3 people been listening, I would have been canceled.
That's the beauty of live, though. It goes away immediately. It's not forever.
So are we just going to pivot and talk about redneck stuff? Is that what's happening
I mean,
or what?
we can
Jamie,
pivot and talk about redneck stuff because
you're
you
in
mentioned
charge here.
snakes, and that reminded me of my trip to snake handling church.
I think we're pivoting,
Okay.
but it can still be a bonus episode of True
Okay.
Crimecast. And this is what we do on Bless Their Hearts. So if you like this, listen to that.
Okay.
Now we're going to listen to Beth's snake handling story.
Okay. Tell us all about it.
Okay. So let's rewind to like 2013. I was working at the La Follette Press, and there were some snake handling congregations in Campbell County. And we had been hearing about them, but then National Geographic decided they were going to do a show about it.
Okay.
The show was called Snake Salvation.
I mean, I know all the people involved in this.
Yeah.
So you guys are familiar with this set of rednecks.
I knew the pastor. Like, I knew him. I talked to him. My sister went to school with him. Yeah. So yeah, I'm very familiar.
Like,
This didn't end well.
Yeah.
what?
The story doesn't end well.
The story did not end well at all. Like it, but the thing that was the most striking for me was like the day that the TWRA stole, like I say stole, they did not steal. They conducted a legal raid of the snakes because snakes, venomous snakes are class 1 wildlife in Tennessee, and you cannot possess them without a permit.
Can you?
And
What's the TWRA?
The Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, so the game warden.
Okay. That's all I ever. I grew up learning to hate them. So
The only
know,
people
are
that
we-
hate them
isn't
are
it like-
poachers. Just
no, they always make you turn your the best way to fish in the middle of the night was with your just using a black light and using fluorescent fishing line, but they always make you turn your light on, and they yell at you. And they're never nice about anything.
so that's not illegal, but when they approach you, you have to
no, it's illegal.
point.
Carry
taking.
on.
Carry on, Beth.
See, no, I don't even like hunt or fish, and I feel like it was also ingrained in me to not trust the game
See, there
warden.
you go.
But that's neither here nor there.
So the game warden went and got their snakes, or was called to go investigate.
Yeah, like so it was apparently it was game warden jurisdiction because it was the TWRA who came and like carried out all of their snakes.
I want to hear that conversation. It's like we're not doing it. The sheriff's office ain't going up there.
They're the low man on the totem pole.
I really feel like it might have been one of those things where they drew straws.
Yeah,
And
nobody
like
wants to win that one.
maybe the city of La Follette, it would have been their jurisdiction. It for sure was Campbell County jurisdiction. But you know whose problem it really was? The game warden.
Yeah, there you go. That's surprising, but incredible. Go on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, you're completely fine because this is my go-to party story. Like, love this one. So I get up there. It's a Thursday. Our newspaper had just come out that day. So here we are. We've got a fresh copy on the stands, and now we have this breaking news happening because the TWRA has come to take the snakes from the snake handling congregation. So I drive up there. Sure enough, they are hauling those snakes out of the church, and the church members are gathering. And these are, they're very typical, just conservative Christian type people. So the women are all in long skirts. The men are dressed, a lot of them had like bummed off work and
Right.
had come up to the church to see this infringement upon their rights, is how they put it.
Of course.
But they take all the snakes out, hissing and going on.
And you witnessed this?
I did. I was there for it. And after, after TWRA left, like the game warden shook the pastor's hand. And keep in mind, at the time, the pastor was 22.
Oh,
He
wow.
was extremely young.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah.
younger than me. Yeah.
I'm trying.
So-
Was his last name Hamlin? Yeah, it
It
was
was.
Hamlin.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just-
And I asked him, I said, Brother Andrew, because I just slipped back into being a Baptist in that moment. I was like, Brother Andrew, will you have snakes here tomorrow for service? Because they did church on Friday night. And he said, if the Lord moves and somebody carries them in, we will. I'm like, well, guess I'll be joining y'all for church tomorrow night because I need to see this for myself. So sure enough, next day, work all day, and then go to snake handling church.
Before you get there, I got one more. Like, how did they carry did they put them in containers and have like those long sticks with a grip on the end? Or are they just like catching them and hauling them out by hand?
They're already in cages, so they would just pick up the cages probably.
Okay.
Yeah, they were bringing them out. Like the one I remember distinctly, and keep in mind, this has been 12 years ago. That's, gross.
I'm sure it's no different, but yeah, you're right. They would be in a container.
Yeah, I remember them being in like a tank. Like several of them were just in like a big terrarium, like glass tank, like you'd keep fish in or whatever. A reasonable place to store a snake.
I really just wanted them to like come out with hands full of rattlers.
Literally like with handfuls.
So you crushed my dream. Go on.
So I go the next night to church, and I promise you, they started carrying in new snakes. They were carrying them in like pillowcases, and you could hear them hissing and rattling as they carried them in. And then they put them in snake boxes because they literally have like these little flat, like rectangle case things. And they set them under the pews on the platform and proceeded to have charismatic country church.
Okay.
And they really do. Like, they reach down in the box and pull them out and handle them.
When I was in college, and I was at one time a religion major, and we had a class called American Denominations. We had to go to, I don't know, like 10 different denominations than what we were regularly attending. And we had a class field trip where, like, for 9 of the churches, you just picked them and you went on your own. Mm-hmm. You had an assignment to fill out once it was over. But for the 10th church, it was a field trip, and our whole class went to a snake handling church down in Laurel County, Kentucky. And they handled, and the teacher or the professor was like, sometimes they don't. It really just depends on how the spirit moves, that evening. It moved, and they handled snakes. I was expecting them to like pick them up and hold them. I've seen that dramatized on TV. What I wasn't expecting were for the men that were wearing overalls, for them to put them in their bibs and for them to be walking around the church with these copperheads and rattlesnakes, which are both venomous, in their overalls.
So I did not see that. What I did see was the pastor was like, he picked up a snake and it was mostly coiled in the palm of his hand, and he was holding it up like he was, what's the guy in Shakespeare who talks to the skull? Like, that's kind of what it looked like. Yeah. He's holding up the snake, and he's like preaching and speaking in tongues. And this snake is just like, its head is just going everywhere. And I'm like, well, all right, I guess that's snake handling. They also handle fire. Like, there was a butane torch on the pulpit.
Yep. When we were leaving, it's pretty traditional in a Baptist church that the pastor, after the sermon and after a prayer, will go back to the back door and shake your hand as you're leaving. So as we were walking out, he's like, y'all come back. Sometimes the Lord leads us to drink strychnine. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I was like, I will not be back. And I thought I've already seen the craziest thing for today, but apparently not.
So
yeah, it comes from that part at the, it's a disputed portion of the book of Mark, I believe, that says when the Holy Spirit comes on people, they'll be able to handle serpents, handle fire, drink deadly things, and no harm will befall them. I'm really into like the nerdy theology side of that as to whether or not it was ever intended to be in the scriptures. But anyway, the snake handling crowd believes that that is one of the signs that the Holy Spirit is on them. And that's how it manifests, is that they're able to handle the snakes and they don't get bit and die, except for when they do.
And then they say that it was just his time to go. This was God's plan. So what other happens? There's a rationale behind
Is that what happened with this church?
This church was shut down. Don't let me talk out of turn, Beth. I'm going to tell you my thoughts and you correct me. This church basically, I don't know if the church shut down, but the pastor was canceled because he got arrested for assault or maybe domestic violence, something along those lines.
Yeah, that is my recollection of it. And also, I believe he became involved romantically with one of his church members that was not his wife.
Yeah, it ended very poorly.
It did. And
go ahead.
I was going to say the sister congregation to them, the other congregation that you saw on Snake Salvation on the Nat Geo show, the patriarch of their church, that pastor, he got bit and died, I believe, in February of 2014, because they had his funeral in Middlesboro, and me and my photographer and I went to it.
Yeah. Yeah, we can make this.
I remember that one.
A law portion. I mean, growing up in the South, this kind of stuff happens in every county. Like I don't think this is as big of an anomaly as some people think. I don't think it's widespread across the U.S., but in East Tennessee, Eastern Kentucky, there are snake handling churches. Mm-hmm. There is no chance the game wardens and police get involved in this if it wasn't broadcast on national TV. And then
100%.
The public, not necessarily even people from La Follette, but people from all over the country are calling in and putting some pressure on them to get this shut down. Otherwise, we would never hear about all this.
Yeah, I feel like everybody would just kind of mind their own business and stay in their own lane, but they were really forward about broadcasting it. And the show itself is, honestly, it's pretty interesting.
And so they had the law that you couldn't have venomous snakes without a license in Tennessee. Does every state have a law like that? Is that illegal in Kentucky?
You know, it's funny. I used to work for a foster care agency that had a license to operate homes in Kentucky. And there was a home down in Corbin, Kentucky, which is really close to the snake handling church I went to. In fact, I wonder if they were associated. But anyway, no child was bitten, but I guess someone from the agency saw that they have a shed and it has venomous snakes in it, and it's where they stored the church snakes during the week. And so in every single family's home study that was ever written for this agency, it said this home does not have venomous snakes because somebody got in trouble. I don't think it's against the law in Kentucky, but I could be wrong.
So I Googled it, and Google's AI tells me that it is illegal in Kentucky, Tennessee, and Alabama.
To own a venomous snake?
No.
To possess?
In Kentucky, it's specifically to use them in religious services, which some people fight back and have tried to appeal based on the First Amendment, saying it's our right to practice our religion how we want to, but courts have held up the idea that, no, you can't do that one.
Interesting. Well, and if I remember correctly, the pastor of that church was called before the grand jury for this charge. And if and I could be wrong, I would have to look it up, but I don't think they indicted him. I'm pretty sure the grand jury was like, let's just cut this off here and just knock this off. And y'all go back to the holler and mind your business.
I don't remember there ever being any charges for that. The only charges I remember him getting was the domestic and assault and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was charged with the possession of Class 1 wildlife, but the grand jury, if I remember correctly, didn't indict. So he really wasn't in any trouble for that.
Yeah, it didn't go through the system. It was done. Mm-hmm. I had no idea we were going to get here, but
Can we talk about another law that's coming up for vote in Kentucky since we're here? Because I think it will segue into a good conversation. There's currently an amendment that's going to be on the ballot here in a couple of weeks that is to restrict voting rights for non-citizens and for people currently incarcerated. Those are the first two prongs of that amendment. The third prong prevents voting rights for, and I'm quoting here, idiots and insane persons.
Is this election taking place in 1872?
No. So
Are you too concerned about losing your voting rights?
Yeah. I mean,
No, because I was too stupid to even think about that.
Who determines that? Who can say,
Right.
like, could we get a legislature that's in one party and say the other party are all idiots? They can't vote.
Right. How do you and what makes somebody an idiot? Because I grew up in Oneida. Like the smartest person in Oneida could be arguably an idiot somewhere else.
Yeah. I feel like I'm an idiot everywhere I go. I don't.
And that's really the language.
I
and it
promise
doesn't
you.
go on to clarify, like,
No.
if your IQ is below 70,
Right. Like, is there an old definition for idiocy?
Not that I can find. I'll look for it again. But
our
while
state
we're talking here,
legislatures are the worst right now. We need a revolution.
Right. And
I don't
who's
think
the
you can
judge
say that.
of the idiots?
that's what I want to know. And
I want to be the idiot czar. Now, I will be okay with that if I'm given that title. Can I be the idiot czar?
there's a legal definition for insanity, and people can be declared
Right. You can be
mentally
declared
insane.
incompetent.
But the word idiot being in there. So here's an article that somebody wrote in the Courier Journal that came out a couple weeks ago and says if you're an idiot or insane, you can't vote in Kentucky, and that is outdated language. You think?
Who does it say who is the chairperson for this committee that led to this?
No, but it is. So the purpose of it's to make sure immigrants who are not legal citizens don't vote, which I think is already a law. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's already a law.
yeah, so we're doubling down on that, and that's the purpose, and that's the controversy. So I think everybody's overlooking this idiot situation.
Right. Because like a lot of the people that no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say
That's on the books in Ohio and Mississippi. Like idiots and insane persons is language in the law in those two states.
Well, and then who gets to decide insanity? Like, are you insane if you have any kind
Jamie's
of
going to be
mental
the
illness?
insanity czar. We're going to both be czars.
I mean, that's going to have to be a doctor, right? And who's going to say we have to? Don't you have to assess everybody at that point?
Right. Everybody would have to be
yeah.
assessed for idiocy and insanity.
There might be 10 voters left in Kentucky if this really is held, if we're held accountable to this.
So it says that it is supposed to mean, Secretary of State Mike Adams has said that it's supposed to mean people who are adjudged mentally incompetent by a court. But
So like inpatient mental, like people who are like in an inpatient mental facility wouldn't be allowed to vote.
right, man,
Okay, so
this is getting thick.
what's a little, I don't know if funny is the right word about that, but that person, I don't want to get super political on here, but you would think that he is probably a Republican, but he's a Democrat. I emailed him because in Kentucky, you have to present your ID to vote. I'm totally down with that. What I'm not okay with is one of the legal forms of identification is a credit card. Well, my credit card and probably your credit card does not have a picture of your face on it. It just has your name and a credit card number. That is not a valid form of ID. I can take yours down there and they're never going to know I'm not you.
I mean,
So
ID stands for identification.
I emailed that guy you're talking about and expressed my concerns and heard zero back.
Wow, John out there trying to advocate for change, and I'm just trying not to be an idiot.
I've emailed a legislature every day for the last 2 weeks. I'm that guy.
What grievances do you have?
Let's air them.
Probably
Seinfeld.
shouldn't. Probably shouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's related to salaries for Kentucky state employees.
I think that's how you get labeled an idiot, is just by complaining about things. And I mean, John complained about our bypass getting built 100 times. My wife, there's an intersection where somebody's going to die soon, probably near our home. And my wife emails people like every day about that.
That is also things I email
So
about.
we are, yeah.
I emailed about we have an old neighbor, and I don't care if he listens to it. If I knew his name, I would even say it. But we have an old man neighbor.
Not saying
Jamie
his
burnt
name.
his entire yard down, almost caught his house on fire. And he plans to do something with a huge piece of land behind our houses. One day it's going to be a huge cemetery. The next day it's a water park.
Yeah.
It is. And he just moves dirt all day,
From one
every
side
day.
of the property to the other.
And-
Sounds like he shouldn't be allowed to vote.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I bet he agrees with me politically, so we're going to let that one pass.
Okay.
Because that's the intent of this law, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
We only want the people we agree with to vote.
That's
So
the thing.
I don't even know where I was going with that story. Oh, just to say I called and wrote letters
About
to the county
that,
about
to
him.
make sure he's not building. Yeah. When he came to me with the cemetery idea, I was like, you see where my trampoline is? I'm not moving it. So if you want to have a funeral 10 feet from where my kids are laughing, that's kind of on you. Because I did not like that idea. Also, don't
my
like.
mental image of just people jumping on a trampoline and having a blast while they're
Yeah.
putting somebody's papa on the ground.
Yeah.
And I would go join him. I would laugh super hard.
Yeah.
I was going
Just
to say,
as-
would you laugh? Would you join the funeral or the kids on the trampoline?
I'd probably go to the funeral and be like, can you believe this guy is letting his kids jump on the trampoline right now?
Here's a question. Are you guys funeral laughers?
Oof, no.
Something so you guys don't get something doesn't strike you funny at a funeral.
Not just being there, but if I'm having a conversation with a person, I'm going to laugh.
John laughs at the most unlaugh-worthy things. So he is that person that like, I think I'm going to die. No.
It is. There are several things my wife hates about me, and that's probably near the top because I was laughing when she was in labor because it was a nervous laugh,
Oh,
and that still gets presented
that's
to me.
not good.
Yeah.
So I guess you do, Beth. You laugh at funerals?
I am a funeral laugher. Thankfully, my husband thinks it's adorable because it's often his family that causes me to get tickled at a funeral.
So it's not the concept of the funeral that makes you laugh; it's
No,
conversations
it's just something.
in the
The
yeah.
people watching?
It's the people watching, and sometimes it's just the absurdity of the situation itself. So, like, what do you do with yourself at a funeral? You know, because like you're carrying all this grief, but then like everybody's still participating in basically like it's a ritual. We are all participating in a ritual of, you know, observing the dead, of comforting the family, and we all have a part to play, but it's also all unscripted.
If you
Yeah.
come to my funeral and don't laugh, I don't think I've done my job right. Like, I want everybody there to have one funny story that they can laugh about.
So I went to a funeral one time, and you know how I was telling the story to somebody the other day and they had no idea what I was talking about. But do the funeral homes up there, like, they have like swag, like you can get a funeral home calendar or like a funeral home
Keychain.
fan,
Yeah.
funeral home yardstick. Okay.
I've always wanted the thermometer that you hang outside, the metal thermometer. Those are the good
I know,
funeral
those are
homes.
like good quality. They last a
they
long
last,
time.
like there's some in Tennessee from 70 years ago from Cox and Son Funeral Home that are still working. Anyway,
I would believe it. So we're at a funeral one time, and for whatever reason, this particular funeral home, their swag was fly swats. So
An instrument
People-
of violence.
people have picked up a fly swat on their way into the funeral. And when we step into the parlor where the deceased relative is splayed out at the front, everybody is standing around the casket with their fly swats.
yeah, I'm hitting them with it, you know.
I mean, did they have a fly problem in that particular funeral
No,
home?
like it was just the thing that struck me so funny was just like, of course, flies would be attracted to dead things, but now everybody's standing around a dead body with their fly swats.
Are there photos of this that exist? I'm not going to ask you for it, but that image.
I wish. I
Yeah.
was trying so hard to hold it together and act like somebody that I was just hands in my lap. I'm going to sit here on this pew and try not to bust out laughing.
Wow, that's awesome.
I just had a random memory from a funeral, and since we were all of the same age and from generally the same demographic, do you all ever remember going to a wake where the deceased was at a family member's house instead of a funeral home?
I have never done that.
I have heard of it happening. I have never been to one. Now, I have been to very long visitations where you sit at the funeral home for 3 or 4 hours.
Yes.
Yeah, that's any funeral in Tennessee, just about.
Yeah. Are there scenarios where that doesn't happen? Where
I've been to some short funerals.
Yeah. But have you been to one?
Yeah.
Do you stay up all night?
Yeah. When I was,
The Ray Stevens song.
Yeah.
when I was, I'm old enough to remember it, so I had to have been at least 6 or 7.
Teen.
No. Yeah, my uncle passed away, and we drove to a church to pick up the casket, and I don't think we put it in the back of a car. I think a hearse drove it. We followed the hearse to my aunt's house. They put the casket in the living room, and then we all stayed there all night. And and even they had lamps and stuff with black veil over them to make it really dim in the room, as if sitting with the dead body all night wasn't creepy enough. It was really dark.
Did they cover the mirrors too?
It wouldn't have surprised me, but I don't remember specifically.
So why would they cover the mirrors, Beth?
That is an old wives' tale that has something to do with either not letting spirits out of hell or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they did cover the lights. I do remember that specifically. Looking back, I would be creeped out today by going to that, but I don't remember being creeped out as a kid. It was just, I remember it being weird, but I wasn't scared.
I would be scared.
Yeah. I think I'd be scared now. I think I'm more aware now than I was back then. But yeah, that happened. That's the only one I've ever been to that I remember.
What's the purpose of staying up all night? Is it to make sure they're still dead? Is that it? Legitimately, I think it is.
Yeah. Did you see that our county, Madison County, Kentucky, was on NPR today?
No.
There was a overdose in Richmond. I hope I'm not getting the story right. This is coming secondhand.
You hope you're not getting it right? Is that
I hope I'm not getting it wrong. I haven't read it. This is coming secondhand, and I sometimes zone out when people talk. They told me that a man overdosed in the town that we live in. They transported him to the hospital. He was declared dead, but he was an organ donor. So they were preparing his body to remove organs for transplants, and he woke up terrified about what was happening to him. And so
Did they started cutting?
I don't know. I don't know. But apparently that story was on NPR this morning.
Oh, yeah, I found it. It's legit. That really happened.
My word.
She went over to him, and he started moving around and thrashing on the bed and crying.
Holy cow.
But I don't think...
Had they given him Narcan or anything? And they thought it didn't work? Or...
That's a good question. I'm not that I see, but this seems...
the way that it was described to me was that he was already dead before he got to the hospital, and they just declared him dead there without trying to work on him.
Oh, okay.
But Jamie is looking at it. He can tell me.
Yeah, this is mostly about the fallout from procedures that changed afterwards to make sure that they don't get this far again. So
yeah, I don't think this was a situation that happened yesterday. This happened a while ago, and somehow we didn't hear about it.
Oh, okay. Was there a lawsuit filed? Is that how it's come out?
Oh, yeah, probably. It reminds me of Monty Python. I'm not dead.
Yes, you are. You just don't know it yet.
You will be soon. Well, guys, I need to get back to some things, but
yeah,
we were going to talk about a case out of Myrtle Beach. Is it Micah Miller? Is that her name?
Well,
yeah. So her legal name was Micah Miller. We chose to refer to her as Micah Francis, her maiden name, because we found in her divorce filings that one of the things she wanted was to be known by her maiden name. So we made the choice that we would refer to her as Micah Francis when we report on her.
So I guess basically what we need to do is put a pin in this and say, Beth, you're welcome to come back on another time, and we will actually talk about Micah.
I find out all that information from following Beth on X. Is that a writing Beth? Is that your name?
That is me.
Look how on top of it I am. That's the first thing I've answered correctly.
You did your homework.
all
Okay, so
week.
maybe you'll get to vote.
Maybe, yeah.
John's out.
John's out. No, Beth, we really appreciate you, and this has been fun, and we will talk actual murder next time. But this has been a little more enjoyable, I think.
Yep. We can also talk about the
Thanks for
murder that
having me.
will be the beatdown between Tennessee and Alabama this coming weekend.
Whatever.
Oh,
By the time you listen to it,
I
it's already
thought we
happened.
made it through without college football.
Can you just hear the faint sound of Rocky Top? Can you hear
it's
it?
horrible.
It's in my heart.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Beth.
See you.
You've listened to True Crimecast, distributed by Stoveleg Media. Check out stoveleg.com to find out more about your hosts and to find other podcasts to listen to. Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.